Keanu Reeves stepped off the private jet into the cool night air of Tokyo Haneda Airport, unaware that the next few hours would become some of the most chaotic of his life. The runway shimmered with reflections from the neon-red guide lights, and the distant hum of arriving aircraft blended into a haunting mechanical symphony. Keanu adjusted his black travel coat, pulled his small carry-on, and headed toward the VIP passage prepared by the film studio. But something felt off. The moment he entered the terminal, he sensed an unusual tension crawling through the air. The atmosphere was different. He had arrived in Japan many times before, yet this time the airport seemed unusually quiet, almost staged. Officers whispered among themselves. Security cameras tilted sharply the moment he walked by. A few passengers paused mid-step, staring at him as though expecting something dramatic to unfold. Keanu slowed his pace. His instincts, sharpened by years of training for action films and real-world awareness, kicked in. Something is wrong, he thought. A young airport staff member approached him with an unsteady smile. "Mr. Reeves, welcome to Tokyo," she said, bowing politely. But her eyes kept flicking toward the security gates behind him. Her voice trembled as she added, "Please follow me quickly." Quickly? That was new. Keanu followed her down the glossy corridor, his footsteps echoing. On the walls, digital screens flashed arrival times, but one screen flickered to static for a moment before returning to normal. His brows furrowed. Then he noticed the officers. 4 uniformed Japanese police slowly formed a perimeter ahead, their faces stern, eyes locked on him. Their badges glinted beneath the cold, fluorescent lights. A second unit arrived behind him, closing off the corridor. The once silent airport suddenly felt suffocating, as if the walls themselves were watching. Keanu stopped walking. Something told him this wasn't ordinary airport security. He lifted his hand slightly, not in surrender, but in calm caution. "Is something wrong?" he asked, his voice level and controlled. No one answered. Then the crowd parted. Walking down the corridor with commanding footsteps was a woman unlike anyone Keanu expected to see here. Tall, strong, and sharply dressed in a deep blue police uniform, she carried an aura of unshakable authority. Her skin was cocoa dark and flawlessly smooth under the airport lights, and her eyes were piercing, assessing him with the precision of a surgeon. She approached him without hesitation, her expression unreadable. This was Inspector Aiko Jordan, a black Japanese elite police officer known for her strict discipline and reputation for never making mistakes. She stopped exactly 1 meter from him, deliberate, controlled, and folded her arms. "Keanu Reeves," she said, her tone firm and cold. "You will come with us immediately. There is an investigation underway." Inspector Aiko Jordan stood before Keanu like a wall of authority. Her presence was sharp, commanding, almost sculpted. The airport lights reflected off her polished badge, and the air seemed to tighten around her as she assessed him with eyes that missed nothing. For a moment, the world around them fell silent. Aiko didn't blink. She slowly removed her gloves, tucking them neatly into her belt. There was no hurry in her movements, only complete, disciplined control. Every officer behind her straightened their posture as if her very existence commanded perfection. Keanu lifted his palm slightly, a gesture of calm. "Is there a problem, officer?" Aiko didn't answer immediately. She stepped closer, close enough that he could see his own reflection in her stern, steel-dark eyes. "Mr. Reeves," she said in a voice that felt like cold stone sliding across a floor, "you are officially detained by the Tokyo Metropolitan Police." The crowd around them reacted instantly. Gasps, whispers, phones raised high, recording. The atmosphere cracked open like thunder. Keanu blinked. "Detained? For what?" His tone wasn't aggressive, just deeply confused. But even that seemed to challenge her authority. Aiko tilted her chin upward. "You will be informed once you're in our custody." Her voice carried the weight of someone who never repeated herself. Two officers moved toward Keanu, but Aiko raised a single finger. Just one. The men froze. She wanted to handle this herself. Aiko circled Keanu slowly, like a predator studying its prey. Her boots clicked in perfect rhythm on the polished floor. Every step she took tightened the knot of tension in the air. Keanu felt dozens of eyes watching, some sympathetic, others hungry for drama. You arrived here under unusual circumstances, Aiko continued. There are inconsistencies in your travel records, and your name is connected to an ongoing investigation. Keanu's jaw clenched. That's impossible. Someone must be using my identity. Aiko's gaze sharpened. That is what we intend to find out. Before he could respond, she snapped her fingers. A team of officers surrounded him instantly, silent, efficient, precise. The atmosphere shifted from tense curiosity to full operational seriousness. Keanu tried to keep his voice steady. Officer, whatever this is, I'm sure we can clear it up. Aiko stepped in front of him again, her posture so intimidating that even the other officers seemed smaller beside her. Do not try to negotiate, she said. You will follow instructions, nothing more. The cold authority in her voice surprised him. She wasn't rude. She was controlled, unbreakable, and absolutely convinced she was doing the right thing. Keanu exhaled, frustration simmering beneath the surface. All right, he said quietly. Lead the way. Aiko gave a short nod, then turned sharply on her heel. Officers, she commanded, escort him. The deeper they moved into the airport, the colder the atmosphere became. The bright storefront lights faded behind them, replaced by harsh overhead beams that cast long shadows across the security corridor. Keanu walked between two officers, but his eyes stayed locked on Inspector Aiko Jordan, who marched ahead with perfect posture, her shoulders squared like she carried the entire law on her back. They reached a restricted zone, silent, empty, lined with stainless steel doors and tinted observation windows. Aiko stopped abruptly, turning around with military sharpness. Bring him forward, she ordered. Keanu was guided into an isolated security chamber, a narrow room with a metal table, 2 chairs, and a wall of surveillance screens. The door shut behind them with a heavy, final thud. Aiko stood across from him, arms crossed, one eyebrow arched as if daring him to speak first. Keanu took a slow breath. Inspector Jordan, I respect your job, but this is going too far. At least tell me what I'm being accused of. Aiko's jaw tightened. Accused? She repeated, almost offended. You misunderstand. This is not an accusation. This is an investigation. She stepped closer, so close he could feel the subtle authority radiating off her. And I expect your full cooperation, she added. For the first time, Keanu let a hint of frustration slip into his voice. I am cooperating, but the way this is being handled, blocking exits, surrounding me with officers, feels unnecessary. Aiko's eyes narrowed sharply. Unnecessary? Mr. Reeves, do you have any idea how many international incidents occur because celebrities believe they are above protocol? Keanu stiffened. I never said I was above anything. Your tone says otherwise. Her voice sliced through the room like a thin blade. Keanu exhaled slowly, trying to stay calm. Look, if someone used my identity, I can help you, but treating me like a criminal before telling me anything... That was it. Aiko slammed her palm onto the metal table with explosive force. The officers outside jumped. Even Keanu flinched. You do not tell me how to conduct an investigation, she said, voice low but burning with authority. Not here. Not in Japan. Not in my airport. Her airport? The dominance in her tone was unmistakable. For a moment, Keanu felt a spark of irritation rising. I'm trying to be respectful, Inspector, but you're making it difficult. Aiko leaned in until they were eye to eye, almost nose to nose, her expression carved from iron. Respect, she said slowly, is demonstrated through obedience. You follow instructions, you answer questions, and you do not challenge Japanese law enforcement. Their breathing grew tense, the room thick with silent conflict. Keanu held her gaze. I'm not challenging the law, I'm challenging the attitude. Aiko's eyes flashed like lightning. She straightened, nodded once, and signaled to the officers. Enough! He's resisting instructions, she declared. Place him under full arrest. The moment Aiko Jordan gave the order, the atmosphere inside Haneda Airport shifted like a sudden storm. Two officers seized Keanu's arms firmly, pushing him toward the center of the security room. The once quiet corridor outside erupted into chaos. Passengers pressed against the glass walls, phones held high, screens glowing like fireflies. The sound of murmurs swelled into a low roar, each person whispering a different version of what they believed was happening. Is that really Keanu Reeves? Why is he being arrested? Did he do something? Is this a movie? But it wasn't a movie, not yet, and not for Keanu. One officer reached for his wrists, snapping cold steel handcuffs around them. The metal clamped down tight, sending a jolt of humiliation straight through him. He clenched his jaw hard, trying to maintain composure, but the shock of being handcuffed in public hit him like a punch to the chest. Easy, Keanu muttered, attempting to keep his cool despite the tightening grip. I'm not resisting. Aiko stood only a few feet away, arms behind her back, her expression carved from stone. She watched every movement with calculated precision, her eyes cold, unblinking, and unreadable, like she had already judged him guilty. Move him out, she ordered. The officers obeyed. As Keanu was escorted through the corridor, the crowd split into a chaotic sea of raised phones and startled gasps. Some people shouted his name, but most simply recorded, as if witnessing a rare spectacle. The harsh fluorescent lights above reflected off the polished floor, creating sharp shadows that followed him like ghosts. One man in the crowd yelled, "Keanu, what happened? Are you okay?" Keanu tried to force a reassuring expression, but his voice was drowned out by the growing commotion. Another passenger backed away, muttering in shock as the police line pushed forward. Aiko walked behind him, boots echoing in steady, unwavering rhythm. Her posture was perfect, her authority unshakable. She didn't speak, she didn't blink, she didn't break formation. Her mere presence made other officers nervous. As they crossed into the main terminal, everything exploded at once. Journalists who happened to be at the airport sprinted toward the scene. Lenses clicked. Microphones pushed through the crowd. The bright flash of cameras turned every second into a burst of white light. Keanu Reeves detained in Tokyo. Is this connected to the investigation in Osaka? Inspector Jordan, is this an international case? Aiko ignored every voice, her steps never faltering. But for Keanu, each question felt like a dagger. He wasn't afraid, he was angry, embarrassed, and confused. "Inspector," he called out, twisting slightly to look back at her. "You're letting the whole world think I'm some criminal. Can you at least tell me what this is about?" Aiko stepped closer, her voice low enough only he could hear. "You have lost the privilege of explanations," she said evenly, "until we know the truth." The path to the holding sector twisted through the underbelly of Haneda Airport, far from public eyes, far from the polished tourist areas. Here, the floors were matte gray concrete, the air cooler, the lights dimmer. Every step echoed like a countdown. Keanu was pushed forward by the officers on each side. His hands ached from the tight steel cuffs, and he could feel the cold bite of metal every time he moved. But what bothered him more was the weight of humiliation. He had walked red carpets, fought fictional villains, survived stunts that most actors wouldn't dare attempt, yet nothing prepared him for the sting of being treated like a criminal. Behind him, Inspector Aiko Jordan followed with the authority of a ruler inspecting her kingdom. Her boots clicked in perfect rhythm, each one a reminder that this was her domain. Her expression never softened, never faltered, never revealed even a trace of doubt. Finally, they reached a reinforced metal door. Aiko stepped forward and entered a passcode. The lock hissed open. Inside was a stark holding chamber, bare, metallic, and freezing. A single steel bench sat along the wall, and a bright overhead light buzzed faintly. A camera blinked red in the corner, recording everything. "Put him inside," Aiko commanded. Keanu felt the officers push him forward. He stumbled slightly but regained his footing. The door slammed shut behind him, echoing like thunder. The sound was final, like a prison gate sealing. Aiko remained on the other side of the thick glass window. She stared at him through it, arms folded, body motionless. He could feel her presence even without hearing her. Keanu took a moment to breathe. "You still haven't told me what crime you think I committed," he said through the glass. His voice was calm, but edged with frustration. Aiko stepped closer, her silhouette cutting a sharp figure under the fluorescent lights. "You were found flagged on an international watch list," she replied. "Your name, your passport number, your travel log, everything matched a suspect involved in unauthorized financial transfers." Keanu blinked slowly. "That's insane. I haven't done anything illegal." Aiko tilted her head. "Then prove it. Cooperate fully." Her lack of emotion made his skin tighten. He wasn't afraid, but her total certainty was unsettling. The officers beside her handed her a small tablet. Aiko glanced at the screen, then back at Keanu. "You are not allowed to communicate with anyone. Not the studio, not your team, not outside authorities. Until we confirm your identity, you remain in our custody." Keanu stepped forward, staring into her eyes through the glass. "You're making a mistake." Aiko's expression didn't change. "If so," she said coldly, "we will correct it. If not, you will be transferred to the Tokyo detention facility." Her words hung in the air like a threat carved from ice. The hallway leading to the interrogation wing felt colder than the rest of the airport's hidden corridors. The lights above flickered intermittently, casting brief flashes across the polished floors as if warning of what was to come. Two officers escorted Keanu, one on each arm, while Inspector Aiko Jordan walked ahead with her authoritative, icy stride. The air felt heavy, thick, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. They stopped at a steel door marked Metropolitan Security, Level 4 access only. Aiko pressed her palm against the scanner. The lock thudded open. Inside the interrogation room was a stark metallic box. A single rectangular table divided the room. 2 chairs. A mounted camera blinking steadily in the corner. And on the table, files, printouts, and a sealed black folder that seemed to radiate importance. "Seat him," Aiko ordered. The officers pushed Keanu into the chair with more force than necessary. He exhaled sharply but didn't protest. The cuffs dug deeper into his wrists, leaving red marks. Aiko watched his reaction carefully. She saw everything, every twitch of muscle, every shift of breath, every hint of irritation. She never missed anything. Once the officers stepped back, Aiko moved forward and sat across from him. She didn't lean in. She didn't relax. She simply sat there, posture perfect, hands folded in front of her, like a judge about to deliver a verdict. "Mr. Reeves," she began, "this will be your only opportunity to cooperate without consequences." Keanu's jaw tightened. "I've been trying to cooperate from the beginning." Aiko tapped the folder once, soft, controlled, but enough to echo. "This file says otherwise." She opened it. Inside were documents, passport scans, flight logs, bank transfers, digital timestamps. She slid one paper across the table. Keanu blinked. It was a transaction slip. His name, his passport number, tied to an illegal transfer routed through Japan 10 hours before he even boarded his plane. "This is forged," Keanu said instantly. "Obviously. Compare my real passport." Aiko held up a hand, cutting him off. "When you say obviously, it suggests you believe our investigation is naive." Keanu met her cold gaze. "No, I'm saying someone is framing me." Aiko leaned back slightly, narrowing her eyes. "And why?" she asked slowly. "Would someone choose you? A high-profile public figure, someone whose movements are monitored, documented, scrutinized." "Exactly," Keanu replied. "Someone wants this to blow up. Someone wants it to look real." Aiko stared at him for a long, silent moment, calculating, analyzing, almost dissecting his expression. Then she stood. Without warning, she slammed both hands onto the table. Keanu flinched. The camera in the corner blinked faster. "Recording every second. Do not play games with me," she said, voice low but burning. "I have dealt with criminals who lie better than actors deliver lines." Keanu's eyes hardened at the insult, his patience thinning rapidly. The interrogation room felt smaller now, tighter, almost suffocating. Keanu sat still, hands cuffed, shoulders tense, eyes locked on Inspector Aiko Jordan as she sifted through the thick stack of classified files. Her expression didn't change, not once, yet Keanu could feel the pressure building with every page she flipped. Then she paused. Her fingers stopped on a specific document, one marked with a red security seal. Aiko's eyes narrowed the slightest bit. Barely noticeable, but for her it was the equivalent of shock. She pulled the document free, set it on the table, and then pushed it toward Keanu. "You should see this," she said in a tone colder and deeper than before. Keanu leaned forward as much as the cuffs allowed. A printed intelligence report stared back at him. His heart dropped. It was a series of encrypted messages sent through a secure network used only by international traffickers and high-level cyber operatives. The messages were signed with a code name, Shadow 47, and beneath each message, attached image, Keanu Reeves' face scan. Attached ID, his passport number. Attached signature, perfectly forged. His stomach twisted. "This isn't real," Keanu said. "I've never used any of this." Aiko began pacing slowly around the table, her boots echoing like a slowing heartbeat. "We traced these transmissions to Osaka," she said, her voice low. "To a warehouse that was raided last month. Everyone inside escaped except one." Keanu looked up sharply. "Who?" Aiko stopped behind him. Her shadow fell over his shoulders. "A hacker," she said. "One of the most skilled in East Asia. He specialized in identity duplication, biometric forgeries, and digital impersonation." She walked around to face him again, lowering her voice. "Before he died from his injuries, he named someone." Keanu's pulse quickened. "Who did he name?" Aiko's eyes locked onto his. "The American Ghost." Keanu frowned. "What does that have to do with me?" Aiko slid another paper in front of him. This one was a blurry security photo. A hooded figure, face hidden, moving through a Tokyo alleyway. The timestamp was only 3 days old. "Because," Aiko said, tapping the photo, "this individual used your identity for at least 6 transactions connected to a larger criminal network." Keanu stared at the file in stunned silence, and Aiko continued, leaning closer. "That hacker claimed this American Ghost deliberately impersonated you because you travel frequently, keep a low profile, and have a spotless reputation." Keanu blinked slowly as the realization hit him. "Someone chose me because I would never be suspected." Aiko nodded once. Then she dropped the bomb. "Mr. Reeves, if this is true," she leaned forward, voice sharp as a blade, "then you are not just a victim." She straightened. "You are bait." The room went silent. Keanu felt a chill run through him. Someone was using his identity not just to hide, but to draw attention. Aiko snapped the folder shut and turned to the officers. "We're moving him, now!" Her voice was low, steady, but there was something different in her tone, a shadow of urgency that hadn't been there before. The officers stepped forward instantly. One unlocked Keanu's cuffs from the table latch, while the other tightened the restraints around his wrists. Keanu winced slightly. The metal was digging deep, leaving angry red imprints on his skin. Aiko didn't apologize. She didn't soften, but for the first time she hesitated before speaking. "Reeves," she said, her voice quieter than usual, "until we confirm the extent of this identity breach, you cannot remain in an unsecured facility. You'll be transferred to the Tokyo Metropolitan Detention Transport Point." Keanu swallowed hard. "That's a jail." Aiko's expression didn't change. "A holding facility, with higher security." "And less rights," Keanu said under his breath. Her eyes flicked toward him sharp as knives. "This is not a negotiation." The officers pulled him to his feet. They exited the interrogation wing and moved down another long corridor. This one even darker, lined with reinforced doors and red emergency lights that glowed like silent warning signals. The deeper they went, the quieter it became. Even the hum of airport engines faded until the hallway carried only one sound: Aiko's precise, steady footsteps. Outside, through a heavy security door, the weather had taken a sudden, violent turn. Rain hammered the pavement, neon lights reflected off puddles, and the wind howled through the fenced-off transport zone. A black police van waited there, engine rumbling. The doors snapped open. "Get in!" one officer ordered. Keanu stepped up into the vehicle. The inside was cramped. Steel benches on each side, a metal grate separating the driver's cabin from the prisoner area. The ceiling light flickered weakly. Aiko stepped in last, but unlike the other officers, she didn't sit across from Keanu. She sat directly beside him. Close, silent, unmoving. Her presence filled the confined space like a force of gravity. Keanu glanced at her. "You don't trust your officers?" "I trust them," Aiko replied. "I don't trust you." The van began to move, tires slicing through the rain-covered asphalt. Outside, Tokyo passed in a blur of red, blue, and white lights. Neon signs reflecting through the raindrops on the windows, skyscrapers rising like shadows against the storm. Inside the van, the air hummed with tension. Keanu leaned back against the cold steel wall. "You really think I'm capable of what's in that file?" Aiko turned her head slightly, her eyes unreadable in the dim light. "I think," she said carefully, "someone wants us to believe that you are." Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating her face for a brief second. She looked fierce, determined, and terrifyingly controlled. Keanu studied her expression. "You're not sure anymore, are you?" Aiko didn't respond immediately. The metal doors slammed shut behind Keanu, echoing down the narrow corridor like a cold warning. The interrogation room inside the Tokyo Metropolitan Detention Center was small, almost painfully clean. White walls, steel table, bright fluorescent lights that hummed like insects. Yet the atmosphere felt heavy, thick with tension. Officer Hanae sat across from him, her posture perfect, her expression unreadable. She was calm, disciplined, but her eyes carried a frustration that hadn't faded since the incident at the airport. A tablet lay on the table between them, its screen glowing with evidence footage that Keanu had not yet been allowed to see. Keanu's wrists were free now, but the weight of the situation still felt like iron tightening around him. He rubbed his hands together, trying to steady himself. "Officer, I need you to understand," he said softly. "I didn't mean to cause disrespect. Something felt off back there. Someone was watching me." Hanae didn't blink. "You pushed a security officer, refused a lawful check, and verbally challenged an on-duty agent. Japan takes airport violations extremely seriously." Her voice was controlled, firm but not cruel. "I know," Keanu answered, "and I'm sorry. But I reacted because I felt danger, not from you, from someone else." Hanae tapped her tablet, pulling up a paused frame from the surveillance feed, a hooded figure standing far behind the checkpoint, staring directly at Keanu. "Is this who you're referring to?" she asked. Keanu's heart jolted. "Yes. That's the same person I saw in Los Angeles and Hong Kong. He's been following me for weeks." For the first time, Hanae's expression shifted, a flicker of concern, quickly masked by professionalism. "You should have mentioned this earlier," she said. "I tried," Keanu murmured, "but I didn't think anyone would believe me." Hanae leaned back, assessing him with new eyes. The tension between them didn't vanish, but it changed, sharper, more focused, as if she were rearranging the pieces of a puzzle that suddenly looked different. She stood, straightened her uniform, and spoke quietly. "Mr. Reeves, if what you're saying is true, you may not be the criminal here. You might be the target." The room went silent, the fluorescent lights buzzing above them like a clock counting down to something neither of them fully understood. The night outside the Tokyo Metropolitan Detention Center had settled into a deep, quiet stillness, an eerie contrast to the storm brewing inside. After reviewing the surveillance footage multiple times, Officer Hanae stood at the window of the interrogation room, her silhouette sharp against the pale light. Something in her demeanor had shifted. The strict, unmovable officer from hours ago was now replaced by someone wrestling with a deeper truth. Keanu sat across the table, elbows resting on the steel surface. He felt drained, but alert. like his body knew that everything from this moment forward mattered. He watched Hanae closely, trying to read her thoughts. At last, she turned toward him. "The man in the video," she said quietly. "He appears in footage from 2 other airports as well. Same clothing, same posture, same distance from you." Keanu nodded. "I told you, he's tracking me." Hanae exhaled slowly, unable to hide the tension building behind her controlled exterior. "We cross-checked him through Japanese immigration and Interpol. There is no record of him ever entering this country." Keanu stiffened. "So he's not traveling legally?" "No," she replied. "He's moving in the shadows." She walked back to the table and placed a sealed folder in front of him. "This is why your arrest was unusual. The airport's security system received an anonymous tip minutes before your landing. Someone wanted a confrontation. Someone wanted you blocked." Keanu looked up sharply. "You think I was set up?" Hanae didn't answer immediately. Her silence said more than words could. A sudden knock at the door interrupted the moment. A younger officer entered, bowing quickly. "Inspector Hanae, the commander wants the suspect transferred immediately. Higher authorities are involved." Keanu felt a chill run down his spine. "Higher authorities? Why now?" Hanae's eyes narrowed. "Transferred where?" "To the underground facility, level C." Keanu's heartbeat accelerated. He could sense it. Something wasn't right. The timing was too perfect. After the officer left, Hanae closed the door and turned back to him. Her voice dropped into a whisper. "Mr. Reeves, I don't think the commander is acting under official orders." Keanu leaned forward. "Then who is giving the orders?" Hanae hesitated, then finally answered, "Someone with influence, someone who wants you silenced before you can speak." For a moment, the room felt smaller, air thinning with pressure. Keanu's pulse thundered in his ears. Hanae continued, "If you are being targeted, the transfer is the moment they will strike. Once you're underground, you'll disappear." Keanu swallowed hard. "So what are you suggesting?" Hanae stepped closer, her expression fierce with resolve. "I'm suggesting we break protocol. I'm getting you out of this room, right now." His eyes widened. "You're helping me, after everything?" "I'm not helping a criminal," she said firmly. "I'm protecting a truth that someone